Welcome back to the build. Before we get to the real life action, I dug up a couple of spreadsheets and some invoices for some big parts of the build. Just figured I'd go through that, kind of show what it really costs to do this sort of build. First thing we have here is the JDM 6-speed swap that I had done to my car. And this is far from cheap, as you can see here. Just for all the major components, the drivetrain itself, $4,200. That is almost what I paid for my car. So big chunk there. And then as you're going down, apparently I didn't even realize I got the stage 2 clutch and kit in there, so that's another $500. Looking at almost $900 for labor. And then bits and pieces here. Upgraded my wheels, got the classic gold RPF 1s on there, which you've probably seen, and that's almost $1,000 right there. So we got a total here of just shy of $7,200, and that doesn't actually add any power to the car. That'd be putting my total, including the price of the car, around $12,000, and the car is not really any faster. At this point it's got better brakes, better handling, so in that respect it's better, but already putting $7,000 into the car and essentially no faster power wise. Alright, up next is what I was able to dig up from the budget turbo build, which is video wise where the car is right now. I had more of a mess of a sheet somewhere with maybe some more details, but I think this pretty much covers everything that was involved in the build. So at the top there, we got an 04 STI short block that I picked up used. That had 2 bad pistons, so got 2 new pistons there. So that alone, $660. You gotta get some fresh rings for that, gasket kit, another couple $100 there. Dietschwerks injectors for an EJ 251 600cc was really the only option we could find, like I mentioned before, for this for the heads on the stock 25RS. So that's another 310 there. Ultimately we ended up with the Greddy E-Manage Blue, so that's another couple $100. And then you get your basics like a fuel pump, tubing. I got a pretty nice downpipe that I'd have to dig into the car. I don't remember what it was. A nice name brand one for a pretty good deal, $100. And then just going down the line, getting some quality gauges. And picked up WRX turbo and intercooler, which I believe I got together for that about 130 range. And then I picked up an SRS Type R exhaust off eBay for 210, super cheap. I mean, as you can see in that intro, it sounds pretty good, I would say. It doesn't look bad, and I was, just recently, this is now 2 years later, looking at prices of those, and they're going for like, I think $900. I don't know if they just up to their game and it's actually higher quality, or if people just started catching on to it and they were able to jack up the price. But so yeah, here you go, roughly $2,300 all said and done for the parts for this build. And I mean, that's what got me to pull the trigger on this budget build. I had that much just sitting around. I was dying to have a turbo car again. It's all Subaru bits, so it's gonna work in some capacity. So yeah, it's if you work it right and you kind of shop around for some deals on used Subaru parts that aren't totally trashed, you can do you can get an NA 25RS up to WRX power for just a couple grand. I mean, we went maybe even a little overboard with the STI engine block, but I just happened to be able to find one for a good price. So yeah, considering everything, after this kind of stage of the car's evolution, that's putting me in at least over 15,000, including the price of the car, and we're at least on our way to more power. So with all that, hopefully that gives people some insight on how much things cost, how much a proper full-on 6-speed STI transmission and full Brembo brakes costs. And with that, we'll go back to the live action. Alright, so I'm going to do my best to remember what exactly we were trying to do and what exactly we were fighting at this particular part of the build. So as you saw in the last video, my friends did get the engine up and running. The engine itself, capable of running, doing what it's supposed to do. At least in a mechanical sense, the car was ready to go. I believe now the issue we're having came down to the programming, the electronic side of things, which was the real questionable part of this build. I explained before kind of how the Greddy eManage system works, it being a backpack ECU, and so we knew the car could function mechanically, but we're really struggling to figure out the fuel injection, having the car know how much to give itself, knowing how much air is coming in. So coming back from my summer in New Mexico, this was our main battle. There was an issue at first, which I believe is what we're mostly battling, is just getting fuel in general into the engine. So we went through, we tested the new fuel pump, make sure that worked, checked all the lines and whatnot. So something that was definitely a challenge for our skill set was getting that eManage Blue set up and having that communicate properly with the computer that we're using to tune it. It being, the eManage Blue is definitely a very old method of controlling your engine, and we had to use a very ancient laptop to control it. Just, you know, there's a lot of wires obviously involved with an ECU, a lot of connections that have to work. We were really having a hard time getting the data we needed to show up. This is ultimately what became our biggest obstacle and continued to be an issue in this first sense here, where we're just not getting the engine to turn on and it doesn't seem like any fuel is coming out. It was actually one plug or some sort of connection under the dash that we didn't have connected, and if I'm not mistaken, what its purpose is you disconnect that, and that allows you to basically test your fuel system, make sure it's dishing out fuel without it actually being sent into the engine. And it's just one of those little things that you either forget about, or it's kind of hard to understand, you know, which one of these seemingly random wires you disconnect under the dash. It was just a kind of fun, could have had a V8 moment where we spent a whole bunch of time just testing anything and everything, and it actually just ended up being that one little wire we had to reattach. Such is the life of a project car. You gotta learn at some point. Yeah, definitely lots of lessons learned with this car. So yeah, once we got past that, it was just a matter of getting the data and manipulating it, trying to make sure that the eManage was doing what it was supposed to.
The red one?
Yeah. Okay.
Just manual.
Go ahead and give it a try.
God damn. Thing's wobbling like a mofo.
Yeah.
Boxer wobble.
Go ahead and hold it on. Not all the way, just hold it on. Okay. And I'm going to export this to the unit. Exported it. Go ahead and try it out.
Testing out my mic.
happened to O?
I don't know where that went.
What?
It was the other O-ring.
Oh.
I really think this will work. It should work pretty well. So going back to stock injectors.
Should.
You know what a RRFER is?
I think you told me at one point.
Rising rate fuel pressure regulator. So as your boost increases, it increases the fuel pressure. Wants to. They want it to there.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
So you're trying to reduce the fuel, right?
Yeah.
So you're... Is
Where
it
we
not
at
based
for-
at PSI?
Yeah. Yeah, it's real. Just let it run its course. Yeah, it's doing exactly what it needs to do. You have some exhaust leak somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear it.
What exactly is it supposed to be doing? Is it theoretically supposed to be learning, or?
Yeah. Let it learn its thing. We'll see what it does.
Huh. It's pretty interesting.
Because it's searching right now. Keeps running rich.
So what's a good number in there?
14.7 is what it'll want to idle at. 'Cause
Oh,
see how
okay.
it's starting to slowly
Yeah.
raise it up.
And then when you're giving it gas, what's a good...
11.5. I'd say
Okay.
11. So if you blip the throttle, see
Yeah,
how
it goes down to that. Okay, that's why 11's like the low end.
It's starting to learn.
Seems like it.
So that's normal. And the reason why it's lagging so far behind is because it's so far down the downpipe.
Okay.
But give it a nice jab. Give it another nice jab.
It's loud.
Yeah. Because you should be able to cruise just as long as you're not in boost. So we can richen up this whole range right here. And it should all be based off of the ready sensor. We can see your vacuum gauge. Make it go to 0. There you go. When you jab on that throttle, yeah, it'll go up to 0 because you're opening up that plate. Sounds like it's running right.
Yeah, I can't... Don't notice really funky sounds.
Yeah.
Oh my god. She's running. She is running. Finally got her out of the parking lot that she's been sitting in for, well, since April. And just got some gas. We're going to try to get it back to the apartment I live in. And yeah, got my parents following me in case anything goes bad, but seems to be running fine. Lots of... doesn't really know how to idle for extended periods of time. But, yeah, nothing too crazy so far. Gonna keep it, not gonna let it go into boost, drive it for about 100 miles, do an oil change. Gonna have my buddy try to tune it a little again, now that there's actually fuel going into it. And yeah, hoping for the best.